Hi everyone, welcome to Poisonous People. I recently saw a question posted on another video, and the question was, what is the difference between somebody with NPD and a narcissist? Another way that we can ask this question is to say, what is the difference between narcissism and NPD as a condition? The way that I like to define narcissism is it's human nature. Narcissism is human nature. It's just the way humanity acts when they are under fire, when they're feeling a little bit neglected, when they're feeling a little bit self-righteous. We all have narcissism. It's part of who we are as humans. NPD, on the other hand, is what I like to call human nature on steroids. So this could be why it's so hard to discern what we're talking about when we're calling someone a narcissist, because literally that word could be applied to anybody at any time. Clinically, it is reserved for somebody with an official diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. On the other hand, we have people that are very narcissistic, but they don't qualify for the diagnosis. They may have only 3 or 4 traits, and unless they have 5 traits, they can't be diagnosed with NPD, but yet they still behave in a very arrogant way, or they're still very entitled, or they have low empathy. So in this case, the term narcissist would also fit. And finally, we have our casual understanding of narcissism, and casual usage of clinical terms is nothing new. Take a look at this graphic that one of my interns sent me. This comes from The Present Psychologist, and I believe it's from Instagram. And you can see all kinds of clinical terms being utilized in everyday casual speech. So let's take a look, for example, at the second one on the top row, OCD. You are always so OCD about cleaning your room. Now, this doesn't mean that the person has a clinical diagnosis of obsessive compulsive disorder. They're describing the behavior metaphorically. What this is trying to say is that the person is so meticulous about keeping their room clean that this other individual has compared it to OCD. And this is how clinical terms seep into our everyday vernacular. It's a way of expressing the severity of everyday behavior. And like I said, it happens all the time. So it's nothing new. It's nothing unusual. We shouldn't be shocked by it. But the problem that we're having today is that there's so much education about narcissistic personality disorder that the clinical information is getting kind of mixed up with the casual usage. And this is where a lot of that confusion happens, that we're calling people narcissists simply because they exhibit abusive behavior. I can definitely see why the term narcissist would be applied to people who are very abusive, but technically it's not correct. It's not correct to refer to abuse as narcissism, because abuse happens all the time by people who aren't narcissists or even remotely narcissistic. Abuse can occur as a result of all kinds of psychiatric conditions. So this is kind of where we start to muddy the waters. Another thing I'd like to point out is that the clinical criteria for diagnosing NPD comes from the DSM-5, which is strictly an American publication. So it's also possible that there are people in other countries that use a different set of standards to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder in their country. So sometimes if you hear people from other countries referring to somebody as a narcissist, they might have other standards. I can't imagine it would be much different from what's listed in the DSM-5, but it is good to know that not every country uses the same set of criteria to diagnose NPD. Now, the final thing that I'll say is that as a clinician, I prefer to use the terminology person with NPD, and it would be abbreviated like this, pwNPD. And the reason is that when we're talking about a mental health diagnosis, we don't want to add to the stigma of mental health. We want to always make sure that we are sensitive to the fact that this is a psychiatric diagnosis, and no psychiatric diagnosis should ever be stigmatized or demonized. Saying something like person with NPD is a lot more sensitive than using the term narcissist, just as we wouldn't say that somebody is a quadriplegic because that diminishes the person to their condition. We would instead refer to that individual as a person with quadriplegia. So it's the same thing here. That would be my preference if I really do know that this person has an official diagnosed condition. But here's the problem. I am a licensed clinician, and so I can't go around calling people persons with NPD because I don't know that they have NPD. And if I were to go around saying this is a person with NPD, I might be implying that I'm diagnosing that person when I'm not. I don't even know that person. This is where I kind of run into a bit of a problem. So I have decided that even though it's less than ideal, I have chosen to adopt the term narcissist, and I use that term across the board because I want to protect myself from giving somebody the mistaken idea that I've actually diagnosed this person, or yes, this person is somebody with NPD. What's most important is that if you're not sure what somebody means when they're calling somebody a narcissist, just ask for clarification, because everyone has a different idea of what it means. I hope this helps. I'm Jen Guerriero, and this is Poisonous People. Thanks for watching.